Hello, my name is Crystal Petry, and you are watching another episode of the Crystal Petry Podcast, Season 3. On today's episode, we are taking flight with two extraordinary guests, twin brothers who turned childhood dreams into careers as commercial pilots with United Airlines. With fewer than 2% of U.S. airline pilots being Black, their journey is a powerful story of perseverance, family, and breaking barriers in aviation. Buckle up as we step into the cockpit of their lives, their lessons, and their legacy. Welcome to the podcast, Jamil and Jalal Paul.
Thank you, Crystal. Appreciate it.
Did I get enough flying anecdotes in there?
Yeah, I don't think you need. Yeah, I don't think you could have added any more.
I think you landed the plane on that one.
I see what you did there, and I love it. I love it. Okay, thank you both so much for being on the podcast. This is amazing for me, and it's going to be amazing for my community as they watch and listen to your life and your lessons. So let's hop into it. Can you take us back to the very first time you both remember looking up at the sky and dreaming of flying?
The first time we did was when we were 4 years old, and it was on our first flight that we ever took with our mother from New York to Miami to visit family down there. And my brother and I were 3 apples tall rather, like the Smurfs anecdotes. And we fought. For the first time, we fought over the window seat because we had access to that, and Jamil won it at the time. Nevertheless, I would peer over his head, and we got to see just some of the intricacies of flying. There's the smell of the airplane seats when you get on board. It's infused with the scent of coffee brewing, and it just has a certain scent that to this day reminds us of aviation taking place. But we were looking out the window when the airplane was taking off for the first time, and you watched the ground disappear, you watched gravity non-existent. And in our 4-year-old minds, we were able to curate the idea that not only is aviation possible, but there's a chance that we could do it as well. And that's where our dream took flight.
Growing up as twins, how did your bond shape the way you supported each other in pursuing aviation?
Well, Jalal does a good job of referencing it to that of think of the professional Thunderbirds or the Blue Angels. Similar to that, we were each other's wingmen, if you will. So
Okay.
side by side, holding hands, and from the beginning to the finish line of becoming successful, that there was no option to leave one behind. So when we went out to school out in Iowa, about a 15-hour drive from her hometown in New Jersey, we knew that we both were going to come back with what we set out to go out there for. So it was a matter of just being each other's accountability, encouragement, but also support while out there because we were each other's family, really point blank out there for that entire career of our college and flight school. But that's what really got the job done.
What would you say was the defining moment when you both said, we are going to be pilots? And how did your family respond?
That defining moment, really after that first flight when we were 4 years old, ever since they found that we took a liking to it, they would try as best as they could, seeing as we're a family of 6 in total. So we couldn't always afford airline tickets, but every opportunity that we had, we would try to fly. But either way, it was when we drove oftentimes down to Florida and we would go right by Newark Airport. Our father, who actually wanted to be an aviator, he would pretend to race the airplanes taking off, and he would watch us locked on with all the jets, and obviously they would win. But every time the airplanes would pass by, he would say that would be us one day. And you can hear the assurance in his voice when he's telling it. You could hear the confidence that he was instilling in us when he said it. And him having set foot on that path himself knows what it takes. And so he gave us the support that wasn't afforded to him. And so I think our parents already knew that we wanted to do it. It was a matter of how do we get them there?
Excellent, excellent. Let's talk about your journey to the cockpit. What were some of the earliest obstacles you faced on the path to becoming pilots, and how did you overcome them?
Well, for one, the direct path of it, flying aviation in general is not one of the more common majors that is offered
True.
nationwide. So it's one of those things where during our collegiate search in high school, you would typically hear of everything but aviation, similar but not precise of what we're looking at or for. So you'd hear engineering or, any other field or realm. And we knew we wanted to pursue aviation, but we didn't hear about that in our fairs or things that we would visit, college campuses, things of that nature. So we said, okay, well, if we can't find it and it's not apparent to us, we might have to take a further deeper to really find and locate what we're looking for. And so that just required a little more extensive of research on behalf of Jalal and myself, and we located several flight schools around the country who actually offered what we're looking for that would also be able to provide us with our college curriculum as well. So to intertwine the two was the best bet, and that's really where that went. But that was the first step, just locating it. And the second step, definitely, like most would attest to in this journey, and many really for that matter, is the financial aspect. So, it's a pretty penny for one person to go to flight school. Now you have twin brothers trying to pursue that. You can very quickly look left and right. So, for our parents, that was definitely, or for both of us, and including our parents, of course, our family, that was definitely the main obstacle to overcome. And so, at times we would fly just a flight here or a flight there once we entered our college curriculum. But eventually we amassed some grants as well as student loans. And that's what allowed us to keep the straight path all the way to the end.
Was there ever a moment when you doubted that this dream would be possible? And what kept you moving forward?
I think to answer your question, there's always an opportunity for a doubt, but there's just as much an opportunity for belief. With airplanes that are taking off, there's always the wind that we go against. That's what helps with lift when it comes to aerodynamics. So in life, there were always opportunities for us where it's going to go one of two ways. And I think our father, having been on that journey, he got to see what happens when there's a lack of support, a lack of resources, and a lack of assistance and guidance. And so, with all those things, he always told us to focus, and that if we wanted to be something, it doesn't matter if we have a representation of it or not. To your question, Crystal, we didn't see any aviators that looked like us when we were growing up, and so our dad would constantly impart on us that we have to be what we want to see. And so there was no room for doubt, because if we waited for what we wanted to see, we may not ever come around to finding that. And so we were we were focused on just being what we wanted to see, leaving little room for doubt. Because if it takes room to doubt, you have the same exact belief in making it. You have the same exact faith in going the opposite direction. So for us, we took the latter, and that kept us moving forward through the journey.
It sounds like your father was a huge influence and a huge mentor in this journey for both of you. Did you have any other mentors or any other influencers that helped you along this path?
Countless. I mean, it takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a nation to raise two. So we had a nation. I mean, an absolute plethora of mentors that in the aviation community and not, but particularly in the aviation community throughout different organizations we were a part of. That being the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals, or EAA, Women in Aviation. We got involved with them as well too, on the volunteering end. And there's just really. I mean, Tuskegee Airmen Incorporated, there's so many incorporations now and foundations that help with that. And it's truly imperative to have a mentor in that regard, because those people who've traversed the path that you're seeking to pursue, they can very much steer you on the straight and narrow versus get discouraged by things they had to experience. And so that was amazing to have the succinct guidance and route map, if you will, from them. And they guided us all the way through, as well as supported us all the way through. They really became a family to us. So you find that the aviation community is far smaller than you would think when it comes to that aspect.
You two are identical twins. What was it like training and flying and growing in your careers side by side as brothers?
It was really answered prayer throughout the entire journey. We started off in our basement after we did that first flight at Ford, and so I remember we had model airplanes, and we would fly around in our basement when we were just adolescents, and we would follow each other around the imaginary sky of our basement. And so it was funny to see those same concepts in flight school, and we didn't know it at the time, but we were doing maneuvers that you actually learn when you're actually in your pilot training. And I think one of the most profound moments for me was in our curriculum, you have what's called a solo flight, where you go out in the airplane for the first time without your instructor, and you're responsible for flying and doing takeoffs and landings, or going out about 50 miles away and coming back safely by yourself. And I remember the one time I did it, and Jamil did it at the same time. We were walking out on the flight line, and I took a picture of this at the time, but we were walking on the flight line together, and I can just see my twin brother in front of me, which was the same kid who was playing in the basement. So for us to go to $500,000 airplanes that were separate, and then to take off safely and go, one goes east, the other goes west, and then for us to both come back in safely into base, that was a moment that I couldn't even have written out in three lifetimes. But to see this thing matriculate over time and each facet through now, with these multi-million dollar jets, it's just been our childhood's wildest dreams and our most answered prayers.
Do you each, and I'm sure the answer is yes, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Do you each bring something different to the cockpit, different strengths, different personalities that balance each other out?
Well, I think in our particular field, there's a set requirement and list of traits and things that we need to have and roles that we need to occupy in itself. Outside of that, and on top of that, I do think there are things that impart. For example, me being a captain, the leadership aspect. There's a shared responsibility in that for both of us for sure up front, and I've been known to, growing up, as far as our personalities varying, uh, be more how would you describe me, in a
In a
positive way?
positive,
Yeah, in a positive way.
In a positive.
Yeah.
he's the bull. If he has the opportunity, he's ready to push through the gate. But that was what was necessary in our journey when it came to breaking barriers. You mentioned us having doubt. He was the one that was in place for us to not have any doubt, because when we didn't have the representation of one win a seat, he's like, okay, we have to go do it. We have this next goal in mind, and he was the one who helped us push forward towards that. I would say that's a positive way
That's
of
good.
putting it.
That's a real nice one. And the same breath for him, he's good at, okay, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's make sure we do one thing at a time and just be methodical with it. And that's just his nature of things. And so, in that regard, he brings that, I think, everywhere that he goes, for sure. But Crystal, when we're sitting next to each other and we're flying together, I can't put words to that. I mean, I wish I could. I don't think he would be able to. There's no way to really quantify the level of gratitude and appreciation we have when you're looking to your left, you're looking to your right, and you see your twin brother, and there's 180 people behind you that are relying on you to and trusting you to get them from point A to point B. It's amazing, and we got to do that several different times. So if you accumulate every single flight, easily thousands of people
Thousands of
that
lives.
we've flown, by the age of 30. So it was pretty incredible to see something like that and to experience that feat together. We were just hoping to be able to accomplish the dream of being at the same airline one day. And God had better plans for us to see that before 30. So we're just really excited for what's to come next.
He normally does have better
Yes,
plans.
ma'am.
So I want to lean in on this question. I feel like both of you have touched on it already. Has twins ever, the fact that you are twins, has that ever helped push you through challenges and hardships that might have been harder had it just been you by yourself?
There's an element of that. We're roommates, so in our infancy of our marriages, now we're learning how to dial that down, because we've always been
Yeah.
each other's go-to. So
Yes,
so
ma'am.
now learning to reprioritize that in this season of life, has been a worthwhile challenge. But in the journey of our flight pursuits,
Mhm.
it's definitely better to do life with someone than it is alone. It whether it be the encouragement he mentioned, the motivation, or even just someone to righteously get in your face and just hold you accountable. Hey, we're supposed to go study tonight. I know you want to hang out or do whatever it is or take a nap, but we got to go study so we can be ready. And that's real world experience
Yeah.
for us. And he was that person to keep me accountable, as we were traversing this journey. I think it would have taken a little bit longer within my own limited wisdom. I think it would have taken longer had we done this journey solely.
Absolutely.
What has aviation taught you about discipline, patience, or resilience that you carry into your everyday life?
Oh, it's so incredible, Crystal. That's a good question. But, this story's taken legs of its own and, ran away. But I think some people get confused or mistakenly assume that this just happened overnight, simply because, and not realizing this is over a 13-year journey from
Mhm.
the beginning of it when we started flight school. So I think some people just assume that because we wanted to do this and pursue this, that we went to school and here we are. But there was definitely a level of sacrifice, discipline. By far, of course, we talked about the obstacle piece, but then the patience even in flight school, like any other journey in any other industry, I'm sure, you're that bright-eyed and bushy-tailed individual just looking to aspire to, this pivotal point that you pursue or you perceive as the moment, right? But that doesn't happen overnight. That doesn't happen over a few nights or a few years or a decade for that matter. So I think that's one of the things where it's helped us for the real world because we know that any other endeavor that we have in life, it may not happen overnight, and that's okay because when it does actually amount to what it's meant to be, it will be incredible. But there will be some time that's required to get to that point. So that's something that's been taught here. The discipline aspect, point blank period. We knew when we went out to school, we had a goal in mind. If we didn't get serious about it, we didn't have. You asked us earlier about the option of or the thought of not making it or failing at it. um, Truthfully, that wasn't an option. We just simply removed that from the table, and when you remove that from the table, you tend to move accordingly. And so that was one of the things that I think carries us in our lives as well outside of aviation. Certain things, it brings a lot more motivation to many projects and endeavors for us.
What would you tell your 4-year-old self taking that first flight
Yep.
about chasing your dreams and where you end up now?
I would struggle with trying to find a way to make it digestible to him at 4 years old. But
Hmm.
it would be along the lines of breathing, knowing that at the end of the day, God's your pilot and he's the one who wrote the flight plan of your life. And if you trust that and put your trust fully in him, like you do with your mattress, you can sleep at night, you can rest, you won't be having gray hairs at 30 years old. You won't be stressed out more than you need to, but trust the process and know that if you don't give up, there's a harvest. When it came to the resilience, there were elements of my journey as an individual. Though we both made it collectively, there were elements of my individual path that were unique than that of my brothers, and that required resilience for myself. And there were moments where I knew that giving up was never an option, but there were frustrations that I faced. And I would tell myself, my 4 year old self, that though you may take the scenic route, it's worthwhile when you get there, and you have to go your direction in order to be fully equipped for the moments that are to come. And I say that because when we flew our father on Father's Day, it was the same exact route that we did when we were 4 years old, and it's the same exact airport that we left that we were racing airplanes with. And I was the one flying the jet when we went down to Miami. And so I thought about that moment. And Crystal, this time it was a brand new airplane. Our airlines has been taking orders for new airplanes. This jet was like a month old. So it smelled like brand new airplane. And I remember taking off on the runway and I was thinking about this journey. And I had prayed about this exact moment when I was in flight school and I was facing challenges. And I was reassured that it would work out one day. And so I didn't see all that would happen up until that point. But when it happened, I thought to myself, you were just flying the entire time. And so as I lifted that airplane into the sky over New York, knowing that our father was on board in the back, and I look to the left and I see Jamil, and I look to the right and I see New York City, I would have told that 4 year old kid the dreams that others can't even conceptualize is exactly what's in store for you. But be patient, don't give up, and that harvest will come to you.
Oh my goodness. That was amazing. That was amazing.
Something like
Okay,
that.
the 4-year-old would definitely believe you. The 4-year-old would definitely believe you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. What would you say is your proudest moment for both of you in your careers as commercial pilots?
By far, I'd say, there's a long list of them, but truthfully, we're just a walking testimony at this point. I mean, that we're both here at the same airline, and we both have over 30 years, Lord willing, to still enjoy this, and bask in that. But I would say for the aspect of Jalal's journey, where it was very much trying and tribulating in times, and it gets to the point where you wonder, okay, well, is our ultimate dream going to ever is that going to be something we ever accomplish? Is that even a possibility anymore? Especially when certain parts of the journey don't look or appear as what you assume they would.
Mhm.
When we have a new pilot here at United Airlines, we have what's called a winging ceremony, where you get to deem a mentor at the airline, anyone, and they can pin your wings as they hand you your wings as you get officially accepted as a United Airlines pilot. And so for me to be able to do that for Jalal was incredible, because throughout the journey, there was a point where our flight paths, speaking to that analogy earlier, was separated. If you've ever been to an air show, there's parts where airplanes will separate and
Mhm.
rejoin, especially the fighter jets. Well, there was a part of a separation for a while, a few years at that, but that was the rejoining of us, the reformation, if you will, of me pinning his wings. And so it was great. It was a very emotional time and just incredible. I got to embrace him and just give him a hug, because though it was trying at times, at the end, it was exactly what we wanted it to be. So we couldn't have been more thankful for that. So that by far topped bringing my family to parts around the world, or likewise with Jalal, our parents, or our mom, for that sake, our little brothers, even taking them to, Europe and things of that nature. That part in itself was huge, because it feels as if a ginormous box was checked off on our to-do list. So that was very cool, very rewarding.
In my intro, I stated that fewer than 2% of US commercial pilots are African American. When you hear that statistic, what is your immediate thought?
It kind of goes into our experiences, real world. We both like to stand outside of the airplane when passengers get off, for the same reason that we wanted to get into it. We didn't see any aviators that looked like us, and when we were 4 years old, we weren't thinking about what they would look like. We just thought aviators were the coolest people ever. And when we get off the airplanes, and little boys and girls see us, they seem astonished to see that it's possible for them too. There isn't a strong representation, though we're coming, we're climbing the ladders. It's just a matter of time. But to a lot of people who look like us to this day, it's still not something that is grasped collectively, and that's an area of improvement. But whenever we hear those, it's just a reminder of the work that needs to be done. There's countless qualified black aviators, both male and female alike, that are in the industry now, but it's a matter of time before that number collectively quantifies. And so we're happy to be able to help out in any little facet that we can, but representation is very, very key in that growth.
Let's talk about the United Aviate Academy. Can you share your perspective on the academy in Arizona and why it's such a unique opportunity for aspiring pilots?
So, though we did not attend the United Aviate Academy, we can very much appreciate what it's created for, in the sense of taking all the guesswork out of what was in our journey, earlier on, of figuring it out, trial and
Mhm.
error, if you will, to creating a more structured and streamlined path to bring somebody from no experience ultimately to that of one day in the flight deck of a United Airlines jet. So, and everywhere in between. So that's incredible. Not only is it just the route map, but it provides them with the funding, that being that part of our troubles and obstacles earlier
Mhm.
on. It takes that out of the equation and removes that. So I think naturally it creates way more of a clear guided path, if you will, for somebody who's looking to get into this industry, uh, versus what we had at the time. So that's incredible. I do love that, and it's pretty. And I would imagine amazing to see. Okay, well, I have the ultimate goal of being at a major airline like United Airlines. How can I get there? And the program and or a structure like the United Aviate Academy would do something like that. So that is pretty unique, and I think a pretty remarkable opportunity for those who are interested.
As we get ready to wrap up, my final question for the both of you: what's the message you would like to leave for future generations who dream of taking flight, not just in aviation, but in any field where the path isn't easy?
There's always two ways to it, like I alluded to earlier. And for me, the greatest burden that was at times self-inflicted was, what would it be like if I don't reach this feat in my time frame? And so for the younger generation, patience is key for whatever it is that they want to do. So dream to the point of which it scares you, but write the time frame in pencil. Don't be so fixated on it happening. And then for our generation, we've been told that we can be a microwave generation because of social media
Right.
and technology, to where things seem microwave. Like Jamil mentioned, this journey for us started 13 years ago. So it takes time. And like with cookouts and your family's greatest recipes, the slow cooking is what you want. You don't want a microwave meal.
Yeah.
You wanted it to be marinated in a day or two, the night prior. You don't want that. You don't want an easy bake kind of a meal. You want something that your mom put her foot into. And then with their same goals is, let the process take time. Trust the process, but don't let anyone talk you out of what you see for yourself. Challenge yourself even for what you see with yourself, but let no one tell you that you can't make it, because only you would know what it's like having made it or having not made it. So let the journey be your own and trust the timing.
Excellent. Well, Jamil and Jalal, Paul, thank you both for being on the podcast. And to United Airlines, I appreciate them allowing for you to be on the podcast. You have dropped some real gems and some tear jerkers as well on this podcast.
No, we appreciate that. If I might add a final note as well
Uh-huh.
too, for that of the next generation, don't be afraid to go out the box. Don't expect to figure it out on your own. For us, those interested in aviation, there's so many organizations out there. Not only the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals, but Latino Pilots of America, and you even have Women in Aviation, and there's just a list, and it continues to grow. Sisters of the Skies, even. I mean, a phenomenal and absolutely incredibly empowering organization there with our fellow sisters. So there's definitely the opportunity and resources out there. Don't allow the resources not to be something on your side of the table because you don't want to do research or just take the journey of figuring it out. So I would encourage that. Don't attempt to do this journey, or any journey for that matter, in any industry on your own. It's a lot easier with a help and a mentor along the way.
And that's a great way to end this podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you both so
Thank you
much.
so much. We appreciate you. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you, ma'am. Nice to meet you. Bye bye.